Friday once again. I'm Stuart Peter, and this is the Flow State Podcast. Welcome back if you've listened before. Welcome for the first time if it is your first time. Today, just a bit of forewarning, my parents are visiting at the moment and my partner has decided to do some DIY dog hairdressing. So you may hear the comments of the audience / the traumatic home hairdressing of one of our two relatively high maintenance dogs in the background. So if you do hear weird noises, that is likely to be what it is. If you're really keen, I will post the results if anyone wants to see it. So just FYI, that's what's happening around me today. So on that note, related, what I wanted to talk about today was the simple power of our human animal instincts and how you can use those things to address the many challenges that we are facing in both the digital industry, at work, just with sort of life in general around that, to be perfectly honest. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds like a bit of a leap away from the core themes of the series, and I would challenge that thinking because have you listened to the previous 3 episodes? No? Well, if you had, you would know that they've all been leading up to something similar to this. So go back and have a listen if you haven't listened or watched. But look, the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because I met with some of my team who are the most locally based, who are in Sydney yesterday, and we were all chatting about the sort of, the simple, satisfaction of a bit of human connection. Now, as you are very well aware, I'm sure, like the nature of white collar computer-based work was forever changed in the dark times that we no longer speak of, the COVID times, because we all got forced to work from home. And some of it, like I'd been working remotely for quite a while before that, so it wasn't really anything new to me, but obviously it was quite a dramatic change to a lot of people to be forced to turn your home into your workspace, and the sort of mental changes that triggers. You maybe aren't aware of it, right? But you're bringing together two very different states of mind and states of being, and your home is talking about animal brain stuff, right? Your home is your sort of safe space that you retreat back to push away the concerns and worries of the world, right? And a lot of people during that time found that the stuff that you would normally compartmentalize and leave at the office is suddenly invading your house and your laptop and your phone, and you can't turn it off, and that's not great, right? Mentally. So the reason that we got chatting about this was because obviously a lot of my team are either fractional, as the kids like to call it today, or just on demand. Like we bring people in based on their their skills and the work that they want to do, and that's how we've pulled our team together. So we don't have to get together a lot, which is why I try and make the effort to get together with everyone that I can when I can. But we were just chatting about what is valuable to do together now. Like why would you bring everyone together? Like obviously you can get together and have lunch and have a chat or whatever, but it's nice to have more control over the hows and whys of being in the same place together, instead of being forced there. But I think we've from a lot of my conversations, people feel like we've sort of flipped the pendulum, swung too far the other way to remote, right? Where like so much of my work, and probably yours if you're listening to this, being a digital person, is online. And the challenge with all of the online stuff is it's all become very low effort, low commitment, right? And like, I don't necessarily blame, well, I do blame some people for that, but I don't think you can blame yourselves, right? Because again, triggered by COVID, everybody's, just became mad for like webinars and online stuff, because that was the only way that you could engage people. And in the industries I'm working in now, in like B2B, people have always loved webinars and events, but the problem with them is it just creates this whole like it's very low commitment and low thought around it. So like, I'm guilty of this as well, right? You'd be like, register for a webinar, it comes around, I'm a bit busy, I can't be asked, I just I won't turn up, whatever. They're not going to miss me because they're all recorded, and the mindset is just like, whatever, I'll just watch the recording, which I then 9 times out of 10 just don't bother watching it either. So like, there's a lot of effort that goes into putting these things on, and the actual sort of end result of them, I would suggest, is way sort of poorer than people are reporting back. And that, that kind of leads me around to what we were talking about, right? Where we're like, we, obviously are doing all our own outreach, our own growth. We run our own program for Flow State to run all of our outreach. And we inevitably have to use digital channels as the way to introduce ourselves, which is what this is all about. It's what all of our outreach is about. But the mindset that we are battling currently is that one. It's like, you receive a message from some, British rando in a jellyfish t-shirt, and you're like, who the hell is this guy? What's he trying to sell me? Because I get all this stuff, right? It's like just low effort, high volume, spammy crap that is directed at me. And like, I've been on LinkedIn for a long time, and I've been working pretty actively with LinkedIn as a channel for the past maybe even 8 or 9 years now. And over the course of that time, I've noticed a lot of amusing trends. Like when I've changed my job title various times, you get different types of spam coming at you, right? So like currently mine's like managing director and founder. So I get loads of crap, fake agency spam, people trying to sell me creative services, people trying to tell me they can book me 7 to 10 qualified appointments for 6-figure businesses a week. And I'm like, fucking no. All of you know. Real people I'm happy to entertain, right? But 9 times out of 10, this is just some, fake profile rubbish. But the problem for me now is like, that's what I'm fighting, right? I'm trying to engage with people in as real a way as possible within the constraints of the medium, like, which is pretty lame, right? It's like you can send some rubbish characters. Like I've done a lot of like sending video intros, but sometimes people think that's a bit weird because weirdly they hate getting spammy messages, but they'd rather get a spammy message than watch a video. Like these are all the challenging and fun human behaviors that you have to work around. And to be perfectly honest, I've come to actually quite enjoy the game because it's fun. And then when you do break through and people are like, oh, you are a real person and you did really want to talk to me about something, it's much more satisfying, right? But I think the point I'm making here is like, a lot of people, as I was saying in the previous couple of episodes and some of the previous conversations, are letting the software or the tools drive their thinking, whereas a lot of our strategic decision making, the entire sort of concept of this business and the way that we have put all of our solutions together is actually just to sit back and be like, do you know what? Exactly as I've just said to all of you, if you were sitting back and being like, is LinkedIn good? Just as a person, is the experience good to me? Largely no, it's not, right? Because people are just running around doing all the poor rubbish stuff that nobody likes. But ironically, that then makes it easy if you are being more genuine and, just actually putting the effort in to break through. So like, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. I just think that it's weird that so many people are so wrapped up in like the numbers and the scale and like, staying on trend with the theme of this particular series, AI, right, is allowing unprecedented scaling of spammy, low effort rubbish right now. It's actually quite easy to just do like 10 really important things now instead of doing 1,000 massively unimportant things and then being like, oh, but I did 1,000 things. You're like, well, yeah, so what? What does that actually generate for you? Like nothing, right? And I was saying this yesterday to my colleague Ross when I met with him, right? Where Flow State is not built to be a huge millions of clients business, right? We work with a small handful of clients and we do like bigger work and we want to have deeper relationships. So the, sniper style approach, well, let's not say sniper, let's say the well thought out and, sort of effort-filled approach we've taken to researching people that we want to talk to has paid dividends, right? Because we've worked with probably 6 or 7 big clients and accounts over the course of the last 4.5 years, and that's exactly what we were aiming to do when we started the business. So like we didn't need any of the scaled rubbish to do that. It's just been all me and 2 or 3 other people who've driven all of that, and we've just been careful and methodical and thought through everything that we're doing. So like I'm not just trying to big myself up here, which is maybe a bit what it sounds like, but like this methodology works for everyone, no matter the size of the business, and that is what we do for everybody, right? Like we're like, no, you don't need to spend $100,000 on paid advertising to achieve massive results, right? What you need to do is talk to your team and enable your team and spend money in the areas that it makes sense to. And as several huge brands demonstrated probably going back longer than I would quote off the cuff, right? Like, you can just turn off all your advertising and generate the same results. Like, everyone's just trapped in this mindset that's directly driven by other people's agendas, which is what I kind of covered in a couple of previous episodes, right? It's like, LinkedIn. They want you to spend time on LinkedIn. They're in the Facebookification has been ongoing for ages, right? Where you'll see in your notifications, it'll be like, oh, is this directly related to me? Oh no, LinkedIn are just saying that some rando that I've never seen has posted something, like, brilliant. Or, oh, you might be interested in reading this garbage that someone's put on here that's just obviously clearly like AI generated, and like, you're like, no, I'm not interested, right? So anyway, point of all that is, think about your experience as a human person of the internet. Think about what you like to receive and how you like to be treated. Think about whether you're actually really doing that in your sales and marketing and any sort of growth related activities. And then if you're not doing that and you're letting tools or vendors or, people with other agendas than yours tell you how to run your communications and growth activities, it might perhaps be time to rethink your strategy, which is convenient as we get around to the pointy end of the year. If you run on the calendar year, right? Don't just feel like you need to keep spending and keep doing what you've been doing because of numbers and charts and blah blah blah. Like, have an actual think about what those numbers and charts and blah 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 are actually doing. Are they actually generating real revenue? Are they generating really meaningful relationships with your customers? Are they actually generating the leading indicators that lead to meaningful relationships with your customers? I would confidently go out and say that probably at least 50% of what you're doing is not really contributing anything significant to the growth effort of the business. And I would challenge people who are in these roles to sit down and, instead of thinking, what else could we be doing? How could we be doing more? How can we spend more money? Think about what you could cut back on and reinvest into much more meaningful activities, whether that is digital outreach, digital growth, whatever, or whether it's internal stuff like, how do we just spend more time together as a team and then achieve more, maybe without spending money. Crazy, I know. Anyway, that was kind of where we all, there's a load of rambling discussions about this yesterday. I met a couple of clients as well, and we had sort of very similar conversations. And look, the other things that we touched on that were very relevant that I found quite funny was, just the general sort of the continued lack of consistency and communication across even just like digital teams, right? Like, channels are run in isolation, no one's talking to anyone, things aren't getting centralized in one sort of main platform or reporting repository. All these challenges that we've been talking about getting on now for 2 or 3 years are still here. People are still doing them. And do you know why they're doing them? That's all like human animal stuff, right? Because their job is not to pull all this stuff together. Their job is to do this bit here, and there's nobody in these brands in a position to draw it all together, because their jobs are something else as well. So this comes back to a much bigger problem of just general company structuring in B2B that I can't, we don't have time to go into today, but happily would love to talk about it. Anyway, the reason this is all really top of mind is because you may or may not be aware, but the stress and sort of high level anxiety of running one company was not enough for me. So I'm actually doing another one as well, Catalysi, which has been, secretly in concepting for a bit. And the specific example that I wanted to give, just following everything that I just ran through about how the power of just human thinking led me to where I am right now from four-ish years ago when I started Flow State, is a very simple one. I think it illustrates a few of those points I was making. So my business partner, Eve Chen, who if you do not follow, you should, because she writes loads of awesome stuff around ABX, account-based experience, right? She's an account-based marketing genius who's based over in Denver. We've been talking and sort of chatting, probably for getting on for over 2 years now. And then we officially sort of started this other business from those conversations, but we've never met in real life because I'm based here. She's an expat in the US. There's been no real sort of reason to get together yet because all the money and effort's been going into, putting together this new business so far. So we're like, well, why would we spend a load of money to fly between our two countries if they would even let me into America at the moment, with my suspicious attitudes about everything. We were like, look, we'll just carry on. But I actually met Eve through LinkedIn. Because we've got a mutual connection, lady called Jade who works at F5. We both kind of know her we were like, I think we were commenting on something that somebody had posted between the three of us, and then got chatting, and we're like, oh, we've actually been thinking about a really similar sort of conceptual approach to deploying our, domain expertise into technology, building a sort of supported technology plus process plus people expertise solution. That was where it all started. And then from there, it just kind of all evolved, which is awesome, right? But that, that's the perfect example of kind of the flow state concept, right? It's like the digital intro, meaningful discussions, eyeball each other virtually, see whether we get on, do we agree, whatever. And then we've just sort of proven to each other over the course of that period that we're trustworthy, and we're happy to work together, and here we are, getting ready to bring this out to the world, this second business. But interestingly, the bit that was missing that I previously would have relied on there was like, we've never met in person. Normally you'd meet someone and get a feel for them through your, sort of miscellaneous subconscious sensing of whether you get a good vibe from somebody or not, which is really hard to, I don't think is replaceable by online solutions at present, because I just don't think technology gives you a tangible enough experience of speaking to someone else online that you need to make those calls. And that's just because it's all screens and boxes and stuff, right? Which is not like how we like to engage each other in person. So that was where we started. But again, because we're now prepping to run another growth process for another business, we've obviously been doing a lot of other stuff that I can't really talk about at the moment, in order to start to build our networks into other areas where you need to demonstrate trust and credibility and all this other stuff to new groups of people. And going back to what I was saying, we've been challenging ourselves to think about how we do that classic startup style on, we're self-funding everything at the moment. How do we do that in a really effective way? Because we don't have tons of money to drop at this at the moment. We're building the stuff that is really directly driving the concept and the business forward. And it just means that we're all very much in that mindset, right? You get a good sense of, when you're running your own growth process, the sort of daily experience of casual rejection from strangers becomes a very common experience, and you get used to it quite quickly. And I actually think that's where a lot of startup businesses kind of fall down, because people just can't take it. They're just, it doesn't feel great when people are just like, no, can't be bothered, don't even want to hear what you've got to say. But like I was saying earlier, I just treat that as a bit of a challenge to say obviously I haven't done the initial intro in the right way. It's the wrong time. We pitched him in the wrong channel. Our initial why we should talk. It's all just about breaking out that whole how you start relationships process. Now, I've got a lot of respect for anyone who's got a career in sales from my time in B2B, because I used to dismiss this as when I was purely a digital guy, you'd be like, salespeople, what do they even do? And then moving over to B2B, away from the the very simple and easy bun fight of B2C marketing, you just get a real different sense of the whole complexity and challenging nature of the human side of marketing and selling stuff. And with the kind of technology businesses we work with, that's even more challenging, right? Because nobody needs those solutions, and often there's huge risk associated with changing that solution. So the requirements for trust and proving the concepts and stuff are so much higher. The barrier to entry and the friction in the sales process is so much higher. So yeah, great work, anyone who's in BD, sales, whatever. You're doing a good, typically very thankless job where you just get, doors slammed in your face left, right and centre. So it's good stuff. And I'm amazed that people keep such a positive attitude, given that sometimes that's what they do literally day to day, every day. And people are just like, no, who are you? Whatever. So look, you're probably thinking, well, what the hell does all this have to do with how you make better decisions in digital or in your marketing, and what, generally what the hell are you talking about? So let me leave you with these thoughts, right? As I said earlier, the general, I'm going to paint with a broad brush here, but stick with me. The general line of thinking in my experience, and I'm going back to all of my B2C stuff as well, way back to the early days, what has happened is, a lot of people that are in marketing roles or sales roles, or anyone who's in a growth role, right, that uses a lot of digital channels, huge amounts of their thinking and strategy, in inverted commas if you are only listening, is driven by the people who are trying to take your money and marking their own homework, to use a favourite phrase of my old boss's boss, John Miskelly. Thanks for that, John. Now, what I mean by that, and this was a big thing that we used to contend with when I was spending huge amounts of other people's money at Group M, is like Google, Facebook, or Meta now, whatever, any of these advertising platforms, any advertising technology, any marketing technology, right? All they do, as you well know if you're in this kind of job, is they give you their own tracking tags. They give you their own metrics. They give you their own recommendations about how to spend your money. And now they give you products that optimize your campaigns for you in a way, allegedly, that makes them perform better, all based on their own tracking and their own metrics and their idea of how you should spend your money. So just sit down and have a think about that, and think about all the channels that you're running in right now, and think about whether you are running things that are aligned with your business goals and your business objectives, or if you are running things that are aligned with your technology vendors' goals and objectives, i.e., how do we spend more of your money? And this is a challenge that I haven't seen anybody successfully solve to their satisfaction. I've seen people build really good measurement frameworks that are directly tied to what they want to achieve. But what I see a lot recently is a lot of people still doing the old, oh, let's quick pull a report from the ad console. What does it say? Oh, it says everything's great, or it says it's crap, we should spend more money. That is literally the recommendation from any advertising platform. Like, oh, your ads aren't performing well, maybe you should spend more budget. Oh, they're not performing well, maybe try this other format. And the most insidious one recently is like, you know, like with PMax that everyone's been obsessing with from Google. Oh, don't worry, guys. Let us optimize it. We'll build your ads for you. We'll do it all for you. And LinkedIn have launched one as well. I forget what those is called. It's like some rubbish name like Enhance or something, but it's the same. It's like, oh, no, don't worry. We've got our own AI model. We can train it to spend your money better and get better results. And you're like, you as a marketing person should be sitting down and thinking, no, you won't. I will optimize my campaigns around my objectives, right? And then the next bit of that, right, is like you should be connecting those directly to people, accounts and people. So if this isn't all being tracked back to effort towards companies that you're trying to engage and win, or efforts towards contacts and pushing and building those relationships, like, and this is, you know, coming all back to like where we focus, obviously, like building relationships with real people and real companies. The other challenge, if you're just using digital statistics, is like it's very hard to tie them to actual people, right? Like you would know if you've been working on digital for a long time that the entire tracking process across most advertising platforms is incredibly opaque and obfuscated. And unless you're running like stuff from like your CRM, for example, and you're tracking individual users that you have actually identified, nothing that you can track can be directly tied back to a person. Like the only way to do that is to draw that direct link between a verified user of some description that you yourselves have verified and then everything else. So that's where a lot of the gap is, right? Like it's easy to spend tons of money and generate a lot of stuff, and then there's a big gap in the middle, and then you might have your CRM, and then at the other end you got your sales pipeline and money's coming out. But there's a huge grey area in the middle of that process where everyone's claiming credit for everything and nobody's actually really sure what's like really driving the results. So like, look, you know, happy to be challenged on that, but that's what I've seen, and it's part of what we help people to address. And the reason that you can use your human thinking to address these things, and the reason that in B2B, you know, we love events so much, is like they're a sort of safe space, right? You sponsor an event or you go to an event, they give you the attendee list, you meet the people, and then you've generated people stuff, right? But the challenge at the other end of the spectrum there is like, well, what's next, right? So you generated a lead, right? You met someone at an event, you booked a demo with them or something. What happens next? Where do they go? What's the strategy around that person or their business that you can deploy to continue to build that relationship or nurture that relationship? And going from, you know, the virtual bottom to the top, that's the other thing that doesn't happen, right? People are just like, oh, sales are just selling. Sales have got loads of stuff that they can tell you that's incredibly useful to build those relationships or to keep things moving, but that generally gets ignored back up the pipe at the top end, because people in the marketing space are just obsessing over, oh, we got this many visitors to the site, or loads of people downloaded this white paper, or people are coming to, you know, our webinars. So look, that's where, again, I'm trying to stay positive, right? What I'm saying there is an opportunity there. So just go talk to your colleagues, see what they're all saying. Come up with a better strategy and a better way to spend all the money. Come up with a better way to spend your time at work. Like there's so much people can be doing there that is just simple human stuff. Don't let technology vendors and advertisers and people with a vested interest in taking your money tell you how to build your company and grow your company. That is the key takeaway. And look, all you need for that is that you don't need digital expertise. You don't need to know how to run ad campaigns in Google. You don't need to know how the back end of your CRM works. You need to step out of all the detail rubbish and stop fiddling around with the bottom end of the tools. Get your head out of the engine of the car. Go sit inside the car and have a little chat about where you're actually going. Get on a little map and have a look at the destination, and then think, where would be nice to stop on the way? What would we like to see? Like, that's the kind of thinking that everyone needs to kind of draw back to, I think. So look, that is my little, sort of TED talk for the day on how you can just put aside all the noise and digital garbage for like a day. Go for a walk with your team, do the old walk and talk, and go just sort of have a think about how you could be doing things differently. Like there's just an obsession, and like obviously we've talked about it a lot on this series, a dangerous level of obsession with the tools and not enough obsession with what they can actually do. That is the dramatic conclusion that I will leave you with. So thanks for joining. Still, I'm sorry, don't have a good ending for the show. So thanks for joining. I hope you found that interesting. That, friends, is the end of the show. So I guess, as usual, I'll end right there.